So this topic is credit monitoring and NPA management. So we'll talk about credit monitoring, what is NPA and how NPA is to be managed, what are the different techniques of NPA management. We are going to discuss all this. Now, first of all, when we talk about credit monitoring, what is credit monitoring? Now, credit monitoring can be defined as a supervision of a loan account on an ongoing basis, keeping a continuous watch vigil over the functioning of borrowers' units to confirm that the account conform to the various assumptions made at the time of sanction. In other words, credit monitoring is to maintain asset quality of a bank. Now, once we say that credit monitoring means keep a constant watch. So what are the things which needs to be constantly watched in credit monitoring? Is it repayment only or something else? When we say that in credit monitoring, we keep a constant watch. Now, when we talk about constant watch, what are the things to check? Okay. So one is repayment, another is counterparty rating. What else? Review. This is very important. Review. So review of, as we have discussed in the last session only, that we keep a check of the performance of the data in terms of financial performance, business performance, and a holistic change, a holistic view, one. Second is due diligence. So even after lending also due diligence take place. So when we talk about due diligence, following things are very important. One is analysis of the customer, analysis of the sector. Now, when we say customer analysis means working capital cycle, different financial ratios, bank limit versus utilization, stock audit report, etc. Right? And also repayment. Don't we check rating, credit rating, right? These are few of the things which we check about the customer and keep on monitoring on a time-to-time basis, right? When it comes to analysis of the sector, what do we see? Say the customer is into a particular type of industry, say forging, which is mainly used in the auto manufacturing as an input component to auto spares and parts. The customer industry is into forging, F-O-R-G-I-N-G, forging. Right. So what we do? What are the things which we take care of? Yes, one is industrial outlook. Second, apart from that, demand for these products. So demand and supply. Demand supply for the industry. Next, CAGR. Next, any specific news related to the sector, micro and macroeconomic factor, taxation norms, government policy, growth life cycle, okay, all these things more or less, right? Okay, so we'll consider all these factors in credit monitoring, right? Second is why credit monitoring is important. So just give your idea that why credit monitoring is important. Just an idea. Then I'll take you to the sheet and then we will discuss why credit monitoring is important. One is risk management. Second, can we write understand market dynamics as well and strategize for future lending? Can I write that? Or realigning of strategies based on market facts and figures? Can I say this? Well, let's have a look. The bank's ultimate purpose of doing all types of business is to earn more and more profits, and NPA affects adversely to the profitability of the bank. So, the major agenda of credit monitoring is to manage the NPA effectively and to increase the profitability of the bank. Next one is to ensure delivery of the credit after compliance with pre-disbursement terms and conditions. So one thing is that when you check, when we do hindsighting, we look at the credit conditions that is given before disbursement and whether the credit conditions are being adhered or not. So certain documentations which was a prerequisite mentioned in the credit condition, whether that is being adhered or not is something which we check, right? Next is to maintain the credit quality for safeguarding banks fund lent. So whatever fund you have lent, you have to check whether your fund is in safe hand or not, right? Also to initiate quick and effective steps for upgrading, identifying weak accounts and substandard accounts. So when you do credit monitoring, you constantly get to know which customers are going in a wrong direction. Wrong direction means the probability the account can become a default account, and accordingly, proactively, you can take some measures to prevent that. To ensure that borrowing unit complied with the original terms and conditions that we discussed, and the ultimate objective of doing all types of businesses to earn more and more profit, right? Apart from that, there are a few important factors that we discussed is this to understand market dynamics and strategies for future lending, realigning of the strategies or market facts. Now, for an example, you see in a particular region, one particular portfolio is significantly doing bad. Say for an example, a short ticket personal loan, which you have introduced to different parts of the country and probably in one particular region, the short ticket personal loan has got highest delinquency. Unless you monitor, you will not be able to know this, right? The moment you monitor, at least you can say that, no, I'm not going ahead with a short ticket personal loan for this particular region or this particular profile, right? Similarly, for certain products, for an example, a dealer is delivering commercial vehicles. And based on the dealer's pro forma invoice, you are funding the commercial vehicle, right? It happens, right? But now, in a scenario, yeah, so maximizing profit with minimizing risk. Now, I'll tell you one practical scenario. Dealer is saying that I will deliver the vehicle in next 10 days. Now, this is specific to commercial vehicle. Why? I'm going to tell you. Or a construction equipment. Now, why construction equipment and commercial vehicle? Because the asset earns money for, and from that money you repay the interest, right? Yes or no? This is not a personal car. These are the assets which is earning you money, right? Based on the dealer's commitment of 10 days delivery, you had given a moratorium of, say, moratorium given for 60 days, assuming that fair enough, the vehicle or the asset will get deployed and will earn at least 1 month's earning, and then it will be comfortable for the customer to repay my EMI, right? However, the dealer is delivering on 60th day. What happens when the vehicle gets delivered on 60th day? What happens when the vehicle gets delivered on 60th day? Your EMI gets hit on the next day or on the same day, and the vehicle gets delivered on that particular day. Cash flow gets impacted, and he has no use of moratorium. There is no use of moratorium. So you had a planning that fair enough, the customer will earn at least 1 month's income and it will be comfortable, but actually the customer has not earned anything. So as a result, what happens? The first EMI got bounced, which is early delinquency, right? Make sense? Now, once you probe that why so many early delinquencies are there, you pick a sample of customers and you start talking to them. Might be you start visiting to them. You see that 60 to 70 or 80% of the cases, there is issue with vehicle delivery. Right? That is why there is early delinquency. What can be your next strategy? What can be your next strategy? You can say that I might not continue with this dealer or manufacturer. So this can be one strategy. The increased moratorium is something definitely can be done. But see, understand, the dealer committed that I am going to give delivery in 10 days. And how can it happen that with all the customers, he failed to maintain his commitment? That means he is giving a wrong commitment, right? And there can be a number of issues for this wrong commitment. Right. So you might not fund any assets sold by this particular dealer, right? You can take it as a strategy because the dealer is a bluff master. You will increase moratorium, again, he will delay the delivery. Now he is delivering in 60 days. The moment you increase moratorium, he might deliver it after 90 days. You will say, fair enough, there is increased moratorium. What is the hurry? I will deliver after 90 days. There are dealers like this. Second instance, after say around 6 months, you are doing a portfolio review and you can see that after 6 months, most of the clients became delinquent. In a particular area for a particular product. Similarity is same area, same product, same manufacturer or dealer. What could be the reason? This happens only when you probe into it and you do risk monitoring, right? What could be the reason that after 6, 7, 8 months, all of a sudden, everybody has started becoming delinquent? Everybody is not a bad intention customer, right? Okay. Well, just tell me the reason for this, why it is happening. Why it could happen. I'm going to cite the reason, don't worry. You try. Well, 80% customers cannot do fraud. The one important reason is service issue. Most of the customers are complaining that they are not getting service from the dealer. So we have purchased construction equipment or commercial vehicle on loan, and after 3 months, 6 months, we are not getting service. We are not getting spare parts. Right? Which is affecting the overall performance of my asset. And my cash flow gets impacted because of that. And since my cash flow gets impacted, I am not able to pay your EMI on time. Right? It can be a situation, yes or no? I have faced this kind of situation, right? Now, next, what is your strategy? What you are going to do? Again, the same thing. Might not comfortable, might not continue funding with this dealer or manufacturer. Right. Now, when it comes to fraud, that can be one instance which is very rare with most of the clients. The dealer has taken the money, but he has not delivered any of the commercial vehicles or the equipments or the assets. Now, since you have funded, say, around 100 odd customers in a particular area, and he is doing it with 80% of the customers that he has taken money but not delivered the asset, it is definitely a fraud, which is a very rare case. But these two can be common case. One is delay in delivery, second is service issue, right? So credit monitoring starts from a moment the possibility of a new advance is visualized. The moment you lend money, from that time onwards, you have to start your monitoring till the time you issue the NOC to the customer. Second is the principles of good lending, identifying genuine borrowers and availability of adequate security, collectively known as due diligence, are of paramount importance for credit monitoring. Right. Now, once we say that, okay, the team is called risk team. Risk team in the bank, they do that. There is a separate risk team. Yeah. Now tell me, one important thing is collateral value. So you might have heard physical, there is a condition which is written in the credit conditions also, that is physical verification of the asset. So what happens? The RM will go to the customer's place. He will physically verify that the asset is delivered. He will check the engine number, chassis number, or the reference number, or the serial number of the machine. Then he will match it with the invoice which is being raised. And if these two matches, that means fair enough, the asset is okay, it is being delivered, and the asset is existing, and he has tallied the invoice with the machine serial number mentioned in the invoice and machine serial number mentioned in the machine. This is physical verification of asset, where he takes photograph along with the asset, and the same photograph gets captured in the system, is stored in the system that yes, the asset is there. This is called checking the physical existence of the collateral. Second important thing is collateral valuation. Now, unless a customer becomes a defaulter, you cannot just value his collateral. Generally, it doesn't happen. So normally what happens? Normally, there is something which is being maintained by all the financiers, is a depreciation grid. So for an example, you funded a machine, say 1 lakh is the cost, with a depreciation of 20% on WDV method. So you get an idea, third or fourth year, what would be the valuation. And you match it with your principal outstanding and check what is the collateral gap, whether it is positive or negative. So we had discussed collateral gap on the other day, if you remember. Right? Just go through this picture very carefully. What are the typical, proactive and reactive methods? What are the things to check while you do lending, and even in monitoring? You check your loan to value, loan to income, loan service to income, interest coverage, right? You check different financial ratios. Now, when it comes to loan to value, I must say, and a very important concept which goes around in finance world, that is discount funding. What does this mean? Anybody? What is discount funding? No, it's not bill discounting. Correct. It is almost funding excess or full value of the collateral. So for an example, yeah, it's related to LTV. I'll just give you example. Say asset cost. It's 1 lakh. You said the loan amount would be 80%. That is 80,000, right? So you don't know there is a discount of 15% on asset. So what is the asset value? What is the actual asset value net of discount? 85,000, right? It's 85,000, right? This is the net of discount asset value. This is the net of discount asset value. Now, as per your books, you have done 80% LTV, but what is the actual LTV? What is the actual LTV? %94, right? So actual LTV is 94%. You are assuming I have funded 80%, right? This is what is called as discount funding. And the dealers are highly manipulative with this. Just to push their product, they will do this. Now, what is the risk of this? Fair enough. You had given discount. In fact, knowingly discount funding is given by banks to the strategic customers. They know there is discount, but okay. Just they don't lose the business. Strategic customers, there's a big customers, they are given this facility. But what is the risk? See, discount rate, it can be discount rate means it is not discounting. Discount rate means you are giving a rebate. So it can happen like a dealer is saying that fair enough, I'll give a rebate on this product of 10%. Even normal, a small clothing store can give 50%, 60% off on different clothing. You go to Raymond's Parks, at times you will find discounts, right? So there is no fixed rule or thumb rule, right? No, but what is the risk in it? You funded 90% fair enough, but what is risk in it? What is the risk in this? What happens if I go for discount funding? What happens? Negative collateral gap. I lose money if I repossess the asset. Recovery of the money would be challenged in the sense, even if the account becomes NPA, even if you are able to repossess the asset, you will be always selling at a price which is much lesser than your principal outstanding. So you will have to take a hit on your portfolio. This is the major risk, right? Now, credit monitoring has two stages. One is pre-operational stage, and other is post-operational stage. So there are following, like, when we talk about pre-operational stage credit monitoring, it refers to the assessing and monitoring the creditworthiness of a borrower or counterparty before they have commenced operations or before a project has become operational. It is a proactive approach. And what are the key aspects of it? One is credit assessment, financial analysis, industry and market evaluation, risk mitigation measures, ongoing monitoring, due diligence, and regular reporting and communication. Now, you might ask me a question that what is ongoing monitoring before the funding is done? Because the funding is not done, how there can be ongoing monitoring? Please. Right? Any idea? What is meant by ongoing monitoring here? Just guys, write in chat box. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, so scouting for SWOT analysis for sectors and gaining how market know and how the market dynamics is number one. Number two is a trend analysis of your existing portfolio for the same kind of profile or product or area. You do a trend analysis because you are constantly monitoring. Say for an example, personal loan given to salaried individual in the age bracket of 25 to 30 years with a salary bracket of around 35,000 to 50,000 a month. So what are the criteria? The criteria here is, first of all, the type of loan is personal loan. Type of loan is personal loan. Second is age bracket, 25 years to 30 years. Second is salary bracket of say 35K to 50K per month. Okay. This is a typical clustering you have done in the portfolio, which you constantly monitor and you see how the portfolio is doing. And suppose a customer comes to you for a personal loan and probably the loan ticket size would be less than, size is say 100K to 150K. Right? So 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs. This is the typical loan ticket size. So these are the 4 factors based on which you have made a clustering and you constantly observe that. Yeah, so correct. So what happens? Credit risk models like logistic regression or gradient boosting. So these are statistical models which is developed and normally used in Python. And they keep on doing this kind of analysis. Yeah, SAS is a quite old thing, which is definitely good, but SAS is a paid software. That is the reason SAS is being initially replaced by R. And now Python is the, you can say Python is mostly used in most of the companies. The main reason is Python is a very user-friendly language. It is very easy to learn Python. So in Python, they are doing, yes, SAS is definitely good. And still in many companies, SAS is being used. But the major problem is it is paid software. It's not an open source software. Yeah, Python is open source. Python is open source and Python is easy to learn. It's a very user-friendly language. So Python is mostly used in most of the companies, and currently, recently all the models and including AI ML models, those are built in Python. So when we talk about this logistic regression, gradient boosting models, these are made on Python and mainly these are with the concept of statistics. So with this, you can factor in. So these are only 4 factors. When you put it into the model, then at least around 50 odd variables you take care of, which you put into the model and get into a conclusion. That what do you do generally? There are few steps to it. So anyhow, this is not a class of analytics, but still, so you get a data set, you cleanse the data set. So at complete data set, somewhere the values might not be correct. The values formatting must not be correct. There might be some blank portion against some variable. You cleanse the data set. Then you train the data set and test. Train and test. These are the normal 4 procedures, right? Of creating and testing a model. So practically what we used to do it in the Excel, which becomes, so generally it is 80-20. Train test is 80-20 normally. Right? So this is what we call as ongoing monitoring. Due diligence is obviously due diligence of the existing portfolio, and before lending, you do all your due diligence. Regular reporting and communication is again for the portfolio which you are monitoring, and that reporting and communication is a prerequisite for your lending strategy. Okay. Next is post-operational stage. This is a post-operational stage. Just have a quick look and then we are going to discussion. Okay, anybody is aware about scorecard? Yeah, so behavioral scorecard, application scorecards. So normally, say for an example, I build a scorecard for my existing customer also, say financial scorecard, where I put all these ratios, right? Liquidity ratio, efficiency ratio, and other ratios. And also I write turnover, percentage change, right? Next, I get into banking. So number of inward returns in last 12 months, you percentage utilization, right? So salary credit in bank account, so then we see uniform salary credit in bank. Now, based on which we give certain range. For an example, percentage utilization, say 90% to 100%, will give me I'll give a score of say around 5. When it comes to 80 to 89%, I'll give a score of 8. And when it is say around 50 to 80%, I'll give a score of 10. Right? Lesser the utilization, lesser, higher is the score. Similarly, I give score for each and every parameter and I get a score, right? Now, first of all, what is the maximum score? The maximum score here is 10. And my utilization is 85%. I get 8. Similarly, for every parameter, whatever my maximum score is, say my maximum score is 200 and I have got 160. So my score is 80%. Now, based on this score, say I classify as more So more than 80, so say 80 equals to greater than equals to 80% up to 100% is excellent. This is a cluster I made. Then 60 to 79% is good, and less than 60% is bad. This is how a typical scorecard is formed. Clear? Clear, guys? Now, it can be any scorecard. So where I have considered financial, banking, other factors, it can be some categorical factors like, reputation of the customer, political linkage of the customer, all these things, yes or no. On basis of yes or no, we can give certain scores. Okay. Similarly, some behavioral scorecard also you can make. Now, when you make a scorecard and constantly, like keep on monitoring every month based on certain parameters of the customer, you keep on monitoring the scorecard, you see the score is falling on the score is at par or increasing, you you can understand how your portfolio is behaving or an account is behaving. Now, these aspects, the aspects which are mentioned here, like financial performance monitoring, operational performance evaluation, this everything can be a parameter of the scorecard. Whether periodic reporting is followed, yes, no. For yes, you are giving 5. For no, you are giving 0. Can be a part of your scorecard. Yes or no? Yes or no? So somebody was asking how to monitor. This is the way to monitor. Okay, now you tell me one thing. Anybody, slightly deep knowledge is required. You know how to convert categorical variable and how to give a numerical value to a categorical variable. Say periodic reporting, yes, no, is not a numerical variable, right? It's a categorical variable. How to give a numerical value to a categorical variable? Correct. But how? So, correct. So, for an example, periodic, say compliance met, yes, no. The next training of the data set, alignment of the data set is met, not met. If it is yes, then here it is 1, here it is 0, binary. If it is no, then here it is 0 and here it is 1. Right? This is how you put numerical value to a categorical variable. Make sense? Is it okay? Is it okay? It is quite interesting topic and a burning topic for financial industry right now. credit risk modeling. Now, next is what is non-performing assets. So a classification of loans or advances that are in defaults or in areas. Now, how much default and how much area? What is the DPD? Right? All these things needs to be considered to tag an account as an NPA. This is that basis on which you tag an account or make a nomenclature as regular, stressed, substandard, doubtful, loss, SMA, NPA. Just quickly have a look and take a snippet of this. Please do take a snip of this because this is going to be extremely useful for you in the long run. So if there is nil delay, you have a regular asset. If it is when we call it as a stressed asset, when there is a delay of 1 to 90 days. Now, once there is a delay of 1 to 90 days, then also there is a classification which we call as SMA. What is the full form of SMA? Anybody? Any idea? What is the full form of SMA? Special mention account, correct. So when there is a DPD of 1 to 30 days, that is days past delay is 1 to 30 days, it is SMA 0. 31 to 60 days is SMA 1. 61 to 90 days is SMA 2, and above 90 days is NPA, right? Then there is a classification of NPA. If an account is in NPA up to 12 months, it is substandard asset. So in the CIBIL, you will get something written as SUB. In case you find an account written as SUB in CIBIL, that means the account remained in NPA for 12 months, up to 12 months, could be 1 month, 2 months also. And what is doubtful assets? When it talks about doubtful assets, when an NPA is more than for 12 months, it could be 13 months also, then you mark it as doubtful. And how does doubtful asset gets revealed in CIBIL or in your bureau report? There is a particular, way by which an account is mentioned as doubtful in your CIBIL. Anybody has any idea? It is DBT. You will see the string like this, DBT, 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 like this. Similarly, sub, and all this, right? The next classification of NPA is non-recoverable. Non-recoverable, when it becomes non-recoverable, you write it off, and then you find in the CIBIL is LSS, LSS, LSS. The written off. Correct. So this is a typical basis by which you classify an account into NPA, and further you classify NPA into substandard, doubtful, and loss. Similarly, for a standard asset, you classify as a regular or stressed asset, and you classify stressed asset into SMA 0, 1, 2. Is it okay? Any query, any question here? Any query, any question here? NPA management strategies, there are two ways. One is a preventive, another is curative. So when we talk about curative means when the disease happens, you took medicine, and because there is a change in weather, we take precautions, we don't drink cold water, we don't eat ice cream, is something which we call as preventive measures, right? So preventive measures, what could be the different preventive measures, that also we will see. These are the typical preventive measures. It is rightly said that prevention is better than cure. So first and foremost thing, you have to have a strong due diligence, right? So from, frequently KYC, Aadhaar, everything is being linked. One is for a database, to create a database, strong due diligence for the government, for the income tax department, as well as for the bank as well, right? Now, monitoring early warning signals. How do you monitor early warning signals? How do you monitor early warning signals? Okay, tell me one thing. How do you validate a PAN card is original or not? Any idea? How do you validate a PAN card is original or not? That is NSDL, right? NSDL. That is NSDL. This is the information source. Correct. NSDL. Currently, what banks and NBFCs are doing, they are making an API integration with NSDL. So there are two ways by which you can check. One is you log on to NSDL and do a manual check, which is time consuming, extremely, when you have loads of cases, you cannot do it. And that is anyhow not an automated way of checking, right? The second one is API integration. So where in the user interface, you will be given a button where you click on the button that verify PAN card. You can immediately verify PAN card from NSDL site, provided the NSDL site is working at that point of time. Otherwise, you get an error, right? And this is how you validate PAN card. How do you validate Aadhaar card? How do you verify Aadhaar card? Aadhaar number. UIDI. But you know, Aadhaar card currently is masked. Aadhaar number has to be masked mandatorily as per government's instruction. Correct. If it is linked, both will get verified. Even with a PAN card, you can fetch the address, right? But to verify Aadhaar, there is an OTP based verification, right? For PAN card, it is not there. So what happens? The OTP will go to the Aadhaar holder. Suppose you want to verify my Aadhaar number, the OTP will come to my registered mobile number, which is registered in UIDI, and that OTP I have to give you. And the moment I give the OTP, you will be able to fetch the details, right? That is the typical way by which you can verify Aadhaar. How can you verify GST? How can you verify GST? GST portal website API, but GST again is OTP enabled. Even if you do API integration, GST is OTP enabled. So for GST, again, the OTP will go to the GST holder's registered mobile number, and that OTP has to be given to the bank or the lending institution or the financial institution from where you can enable the GST, and you will get the details of all the history, the GST file, including the input tax credit and everything. So you get an idea about your purchase, sales, everything, right? Okay. So these are typical things which you can proactively do before underwriting, and reactively you can take up as a sample, as a curative measure, and as a preventive measure, as a curative measure. As a curative measure, probably you take up a sample of cases and you can keep on doing this. There is something else also for monitoring: alternate data. What is this? What is alternate data? In fact, we discussed this in some of the webinar earlier. What is alternate data? Utility bills, correct? Correct. So one of the important factor is mobile bill, gas bill, electricity bill, and a mobile obviously has to be a postpaid, insurance payment, payment of school fees, credit card payments. So this is a main data source, not an alternate data source, credit card payment. Still, we can consider. Now, this alternate data, there are many companies who are providing this alternate data, which will help you proactively monitor NPA, whether a standing instruction is given for all or making manual payment. So currently, one important thing I must tell you here is, currently most of the NBFCs, Yashwan, they are not accepting manual payment. So I think you are trying to tell a non-PDC deal, right? Are you referring to this? So if you see, in most of the cases, so it can be even a microfinance institute, they will not entertain an NPDC case nowadays. They will not entertain even a full PDC case. They will entertain a case of ECS. E-NASH. It is not E-NASH. It is E-NASH. E-NASH. So you keep on saying NASH porting, NAS registration, mandate registration. Yes. Right? E-NASH mandate. And there are payment gateways or payment aggregators. This is the right term, I will say. Say for an example, NewPay. This is a company. This is a company, NewPay. They help you get your e-NASH mandate registered and ensures that your ECS is timely hit on the due date. So any idea about how they operate? Like the payment aggregators, how do they operate? Any idea? Any idea how they operate? Hello, I'm not talking to the wall. Any idea how do these payment aggregators they operate? Okay. And show you something which is quite interesting. Where is my draw IU? Yes. You guys can see my screen, right? You guys can see my screen. Right? This is a software called Draw IU. You guys would be familiar with this. Say this is new pay for an example. Right? Now what happens? They are already integrated with lots of banks, including cooperative banks. Right? This payment aggregator, say new pay, right? Say B1 bank 1, bank 2, like this. Right? They are integrated like this. So it can be innumerable number of banks. Right? Now, when the customer, say here is the customer, here is the customer, comes with a, say, SVC Bank in Mumbai. It's a local bank. Shamlal Vitta Rao Cooperative Bank, something like this. Is giving you ECS mandate of SVC Bank. For an example, Shamrao Vittal Cooperative Bank, correct. Now you are the lending company, right? You are the lending company, NBFC, say, or bank. You are into lending business, right? You are sitting between customer and new pay. Right? You are integrated with new pay. You are integrated with new pay. And you get two-way communication from the new pay. Right? Similar thing for new pay, they get a two-way communication. It can be any payment aggregator, be it new pay or anybody else, from the banks. It's a callback service, or you can say an API integration. This is a typical structure. It looks like this. So the customer gives you a check of SBC. It comes to you. You send it to a new pay or any payment aggregator. They get this e-mandate approved that yes, we are approving and registering with, it can go to bank 1, bank 2, jiska bhi PDC usne diya hai, right? And then further from the bank, it comes back to new pay that yes, the mandate has been approved, and it comes to you that yes, it has been registered. Right? Does this picture gives you clarity? So you guys, if you are making any presentation and you want to create a flow chart, you can use this tool, which is a free tool available in an open source, that is Draw.io. I do that because I do flowchart of the entire software process. So I use that. It's a quite good. And the major and the most important factor is, see, if you just with a snipping tool, if you take it, you will get this graphical representation in the backside. But if you don't want to get it, you have to simply, click and export it, export this figure to PNG. Right? You can export this figure to PNG. You can export as PNG, and your entire thing will go without a background, a color of a graphical representation. Without that, it can go and you can simply copy and paste it in any of the PPT you want. Make sense? This is an open source tool which you can use for your presentations. I don't know how many of you are using. Anybody is using Draw.io here? Okay. Vishakha is using. Great. Okay. So yeah. So let us come back to what we were saying. Is something which is, developing your, one is KYC, early warning signals, timely, like preventive measures, which includes your timely registration of your eNASH mandate. It should not happen that you don't have a payment gateway sitting between the banks and you, and your eNASH mandate registration takes 3 months of time. And even if it happens, as a proactive measure, you should ideally keep 2 or 3 months post-dated checks which you can deposit and prevent the account from being an NPA. Also, you keep a watch on the checklist or the special mention category. Now, these are the curative management tools, which basically talks about more of a reactive approach, that once an account has become an NPA, then what you are going to do. One is refacement of loans. What is refacement of loans? What is refacement of loans? You guys, if you want to speak, you can unmute also. What is refacement of loan? So when we talk about increasing the tenor of the existing loan by pre-closing, that is something which we are restructuring the loan. That is not refacement of loan. And as per RBI instruction, that restructuring is totally strictly no for the banks, especially after COVID. Top-up loan can be a refacement of loan. So what you do, generally, say I have an outstanding of, say for an example, I have a loan of say around 1 lakh payable as 10,000 into 20% in interest for the year. There is an outstanding overdue of 40,000. So what I can do is that my existing loan should be going on as it is. I create a top up of 40,000 without any fund out at a certain agreed rate of interest, which is obviously more than the existing rate of interest, and the tenor has to be less than my my maturity date. So if this 4 EMI outstanding is on 7th month, probably I can give a maximum tenor of 5 months, and my child loan, which is 40,000, the tenor of the child loan at any point of time or at any cost should not increase the 12 months. That is my original tenor, right? So this is something which you can say as refacement of loan, and there is no fund out in this case. Only thing is that a virtual loan account is created from where the money is shifted to the parent account and the outstanding is cleared, and you make a repayment schedule of the child loan, start collecting that money apart from your normal EMI, right? So you can call refacement also. But again, this is again, banks are skeptical in doing this also. Banks generally will not do it. NBFCs are still slightly lenient on this part. If you talk about Shriram Transport Finance, Mahindra Finance, they would be slightly interested in doing that. Bank will not do that. Bank will not do this kind of arrangement. They strictly say no. So this is one of the curative method. The second method is corporate debt restructuring. What is this? What is CDR? What is corporate debt restructuring? I'm sure you'd be aware of this term and how it happens. Yeah, for NCLT case and for even non-NCLT cases also. Could be that you go for a CDR before the case goes to NCLT. Before the case goes to tribunal, you can do a CDR because you think that there is potential in the account. What it could be. Yes, like go first. But what it is? What is the procedure? No, Baba. Procedure I'm talking about. Restoration of liquidity could be something else. What is the procedure of CDR? Now, say when it is corporate, it will not be 1 lakh, but still I consider it as a 1 lakh loan with 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months outstanding. What I do, I create a new loan, absolutely new loan with my existing costs plus interest plus charges and generate a new loan. I simply cancel existing loans from my system. I generate a new loan with a new tenor and generate a new repayment schedule. The customer says, I'm okay with this. Yes, I'm coming to that. Amit, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that with a practical example, right? Now, when a bank does this, and what are the prerequisites for that? So, Amit, now you can relate. I'm coming to your point only. There is a case in Calcutta which happened around 4 to 5 years back. So we had funded equipments worth 5 CR. The loan amount could be around 4.5 CR. And all the equipments were extremely niche equipments, like heavy capacity equipments. And so I'll not say 5 CR is a wrong amount, could be around 8 to 10 CR. Niche equipment means it is not a very regularly used asset. High capacity assets used for niche particular projects only. What they did, they had deployed all these assets to for a project of Jindal in Udaipur, Rajasthan. So there is an iron mine where they had deployed all these equipments where they were extracting raw materials like irons and all for their Jindal pellet plant, which is there, right? Now, because of some local issue, there was a death on the site for which led to a lot of local issue, and the site was closed for around 6 months. Remember, the site was closed for around 6 months. The customer had no cash flow for 6 months. Now, what could be the other solution? They could have taken out the assets and deployed it somewhere else. But that possibility was quite low Machinery normally 75 to 80, but because the customer was quite good and a strategic customer of ICICI HDFC, so we had funded around 90% LTV. Because below 90%, everybody was ready to fund 90%. It is not only us, but ICICI, HDFC, Tata Capital, everybody has funded. They were not accepting anything below 90%. And people were ready to give it, even banks like ICICI. Okay. So the 75-80% is fair enough for the FTU retail customer, but when it comes to strategic, it goes up to 95%. This is the reality of the market. So what has happened for 6 months? The site was completely closed because of strike, a genuine reason for default. We all knew that yes, the customer actually could not do anything. The second option which customer could do was take out the asset from the site and could deploy it somewhere else. But again, that is not possible. Why? Because those were niche assets. They have to have such kind of projects where he could deploy those assets. See, I'll tell you one thing. If anybody is having any idea about excavators, it's a construction equipment, up to 20 ton, you can easily repossess, resell it, and you can deploy it anywhere. But when it goes to 30 ton and above excavators, it is exclusively for mines, and with certain specification, it is exclusive for specific mines. So which you cannot, take it out and deploy in sand excavation or normal stone excavation, right? This is the case which has happened. Now the customer is genuine, the reason is genuine. What we had done, we had restructured the loan. It is not only our financer, but across all the financiers, they had restructured the loan because the plant reopened, the site reopened, we calculated the cash flow, we estimated the future cash flow, and accordingly we had designed the repayment schedule. It's not that forcibly we will say no, we can draw a repayment schedule of 12 months as a customer is not okay for making payment. We took a consultative approach. We sat with the customer number of times and understood whatever their cash inflow is. So it's a viability calculation of their cash inflow, expense, site expense, and other expense. Then we calculate that this is the EMI. And while doing that, we had also considered 3 months buffer. Why? Because you cannot expect a timely payment always. So today you give bill, it might not happen that within next 15 days you will get your bills cleared. It can happen that you give 2 bills in 2 consecutive months, and on the 3rd month your first bill gets cleared. This is the reality. So keeping all these things in mind, we had designed the EMI structure in such a way the customer started repaying, the account got successfully closed, and all the financiers, they had issued NOC. This is a perfect example of debt restructuring. But the prerequisite is you have to understand cash inflow, your expense, EMI, and also the working capital cycle and the buffer for that. Make sense? Does it make sense or not? Does this make sense or not? Yes or no? Right? Next is encouraging rehabilitation of potentially viable units. What is this? What is rehabilitation of potentially viable units? How it is done? Reassessing, not reassessing. Tata Motors factory from Singur to Sanand, that's a different story. That's a political issue. That's absolutely a political issue. That's a different story. So what is encouraging rehabilitation of potentially viable units? How is that? How does it happen? So what happens? Anybody has heard about this term? Rehabilitated in the sense they have lost a lot of money while investing in cement. Okay. Have you guys heard about this term? Insolvency professional. Insolvency profession. Who is that? And what is his role? Yes, there are insolvency professional, and there is an exam of insolvency professionals also, which they have to pass. Normally, these insolvency professionals are qualified CAs and or LLBs, mostly corporate lawyers. Correct. So one part is taking custody and sale. That is the extreme thing. Taking custody and selling is an extreme thing. Understand, guys? But before that, something happens. When I talk about encouraging for rehabilitation, we are not thinking about sale. Remember this. Providing management consulting. Make sense? Does this make sense? Yes or no? Now, what kind of management consulting and how does it happen? What kind of management consulting and how does it happen? What is PCA? Full form, please. Prompt corrective action. Good. Yes. Now, yeah, so audit consulting firm, why they are hired? Because one is understand the loopholes of the system, right? Understand the loopholes of the system is extremely important, right? Second thing is, so this is the first step one. Who understands? Before that, there is a step, form a committee of professionals from different but relevant fields. Could be technology, finance, marketing, HR, like this. Step two, understand the process. Step three, Okay, so generally when the banks and the debtors, they come with a consultative approach that I am not able to manage the business, banks suggest. It's not a forcible appointment. Forcible appointment happens when NCLT gives you a direction. Tribunal gives you a direction. This is a consultative step. I'm till now telling you that this is, when the banks and in fact, even the company can appoint a consultant. It can be from McKinsey, he can be from Goldman Sachs, he can be from like, any consulting firm, depending on your budget and your objective, right? Okay. Now, they observe the loopholes of the system. First, they understand the system, then they observe the loophole of the system. And then what do they do as step 4? They suggest corrective action. Next is step 5. They simulate ideal situation. Ideal situation. What is mean by simulate ideal situation? What is mean by simulate ideal situation? Anyone? What is simulation? What is simulation?
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Yashwant here. So
Yes.
it is like creating an environment where what is the ideal, like if the business is happening in an ideal situation, what will be the results? So creating that situation. Similar to in CIBIL, they have a simulator, credit simulator, wherein it will show if I take a loan, how much will be my CIBIL, like personal loan or credit card or a home loan or anything.
Correct.
So it is similar to that.
Correct. So it is basically creating an artificial environment which is in replication to the original environment, quite similar to the original environment. You create a replication of that and see how it behaves. So initially, when you get into a consultative approach, probably you start with a single problem pertaining to a single department and you suggest a solution, you simulate and see if I simulate in the simulated environment, how my suggested things that gives what kind of outcome. Clear? So what they do as a next step, they simulate ideal situation. Step 5. Step 6, they check the outcomes. Finally, step 7, if it is favorable, then they implement. If it is not favorable or not the desired result is giving, then they again re-strategize. And then again they simulate. It happens like this. And then they implement. Then from one particular problem, one particular department, they identify whatever problems they have identified in other departments, they again continuously do the same thing, and they bring the entire organization to a state where the desired result is being achieved. For an example, when you expect whereas you were getting a negative ROE, you expect a positive ROE. So initial state probably from the negative to positive, and then slowly grow. That is their objective, right? So what happens? Rehabilitation means what? So when I go for a rehabilitation, means I am having a bad condition, whatever it is. And from rehabilitation, slowly and gradually, the rehabilitator takes me into a stable condition. Then it takes me to an improved condition. So first my loss becomes 0. Then I get into a profit stage and then I grow my profit. So while doing that, they can take a lot of corrective action, including, changing of the machineries, reducing manpower, or hiring some skilled manpower which are more relevant to the line of business. So all these things that keeps on happening. That's our total consulting method of doing it. It's not a forcible method. It's a rehabilitation done in a consultative way. Nobody is pushing, neither the role of NCLT is there, nothing is there, right? Is it clear now? Is it clear? Now the next one is encouraging acquisition of SEEK units by healthy units. So this is, we know, we have seen mergers and acquisitions a lot of time. The SEEK units are being taken off by healthy units, right? There are a lot of examples. Next is entering compromise schemes with the borrowers and entering one-time settlement. So what happens? Suppose I have given a loan of say 200 CR. I can foresee that probably I will be able to recover INR 160 CR from the. If I keep this thing hanging for another 3 years, 4 years, probably I will recover less. And considering the time value of my money, the cash flow or the net present value of whatever cash I get in future will be much, much lesser compared to this 160 CR. So I go for a one-time settlement of 160 CR, I close the account. That's it. Make sense or not? Okay, Tanuma is asking, as a lender, is it very difficult to foresee which sectors under stress because of macroeconomic risk factors, the business units becoming sick? Okay, so there are many articles which keeps on coming from the rating agencies like CARE, CRISIL, they keep on publishing. Plus, there are many, like journals which they keep on giving you insights of every sector. And even if you carefully follow moneycontrol.com, that also gives you a lot of news. Plus, you have to keep your eyes a bit open when you get to know what sector is, which is the overall performance and what are the government policies, which is going to affect what sector. Probably the GST rate could be an, input factor for certain outputs of a particular sector. So there are a lot of things which are quite important in this aspect. So where you need to do a bit of R&D, and if I myself as a credit underwriter, I'm not able to do that, I have to believe on the expert's opinion. So there are a lot of research reports which keeps on coming. Some are paid reports which you need to consume, and then you can go through it and see the sectoral overall view about the sector, right? Now, why an account becomes an NPA? One is poor selection of the borrowers. That is something which is already done. We cannot help much because we have selected a bad customer. Now we have already fund out has happened. So what I can do? I cannot do anything, but that is a result. Next is poor appraisal. So what is the difference between poor selection of borrowers and poor appraisal? What is the difference between these two? What is the difference between poor appraisal and poor selection of borrowers? Any idea? Okay, let me tell you, when you select a borrower who is actually bad, is something called poor, correct, selection of borrowers. But when your process is at fault, say you do not check your CIBIL correctly, you do not assess the financials correctly, you do not assess the bank statement correctly, or you do too much of manual things, or you automate the things, and then probably there is some output error which is not being tested properly. So one is something called false positive or false negative, right? T1 testing, T2 testing, all these things you do. And if you don't do this properly, then something which is called as poor appraisal. Next is failure of providing timely support. So for an example, a customer has not got the repayment schedule in time, and he is, yes, obviously, poor appraisal can lead to overlending or underlending also. So overlending is a problem. How underlending can be a problem? Can somebody tell me? How underlending can be a problem? Loss of business is something else. Loss of business means you are ready to give him a loan which is far, far below his level of expectations, and he goes away. Then you are not losing money. But you have given a loan which is lesser than his expectation or his actual needs, then then he has taken it also, then there is a risk. So this statement I would like to appreciate, which Durga Prasad has said, insufficient funds for the project. Now, what happens when there is an insufficient fund for the project? He keeps on borrowing money from different sources. He goes to private money lenders, he goes to his family friends, he goes to taking money on interest at a high rate of interest. So when it happens, then his obligation for the other borrowers become extremely strong compared to you. At that time, the account can become an NPA. Probably you have given a loan at 8% IRR. Somebody has given him a loan at 30% rate, 2.5% per month, flat. So you see his expenses becomes increased to this extent that majority of his income goes into paying interest at the rate of 2.5% per month. How he will serve your loan? That is the reason you have to understand his actual need of the capital, be it debt or equity, and accordingly you have to fund him. You have to have a knowledge about his project, his business, everything. The next one is obviously poor follow-up and monitoring. So poor follow-up and monitoring, obviously, like the account has become delinquent, nobody has called him, nobody has got in touch with him, somebody has called him, the phone was switched off, next time nobody visited his place. Obviously, the account will become an NPA. Hesitation to accept project failure or precipitate potential NPA. So you have to foresee whether the project is failing or not, and the result could diversion of funds for personal use. Yes, if it is an unsecured loan, then obviously diversion of fund can happen. That is the reason for which stock audit happens, which we discussed today, just to check whether the fund is getting diverted or not, right? So you have to understand whether the project is failure or not, and accordingly take a corrective actions. Next is, as an underwriter, I have to be aware about the government policies. I cannot go and fund in a sector where there is a stringent government policy has immediately imposed, and that can affect the cash flow of the business. Second is, there can be some unforeseen circumstances, which as an underwriter, I might not know. Anybody who has funded in the month of September or October of 2019 has never imagined that the economy will come to a halt for 2 years due to COVID. Nobody had imagined. Even people were roaming freely in the month of December. Nobody had imagined that one single virus from China can bring the entire world to a halt. Nobody had imagined. Right? So those are unforeseen circumstances, but still there could be some unforeseen circumstances which we know there could be some extra shell out of the money because of wastage pilferage, group, machinery, machinery maintenance and all these things which we need to take care of, right? This is an open source information about the gross NPA and net NPA for, gross NPS of the total banking sector, which is available till 2017-18 in terms of the gross advances and NPS and the gross NPA percentages. This is an information published by RBI. Anyway, you will get the PPT. Still, if you want to take a snip, you can take a snip. Okay, guys. So you're good to end? Are we good to end today? Any query, question for me? I just wanted to understand how was the session. Tomorrow's topic I need to check. I guess tomorrow's topic would be, 1 second, guys. Tomorrow's topic would be, I think, 1 second. Tomorrow would be one more session on credit monitoring and NPA management, and another is credit risk model. So tomorrow there will be one topic on NPA and credit monitoring, and another will be, we will try to cover mostly the legal aspects of that. And another will be credit risk model, where we will discuss about one particular, how the credit risk modeling, what are the advantages and how it happens. And we will discuss about a particular model along with the live example. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for attending. Have a good day to all of you. Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Take care.